He's in perfect shape, and Slush is going to send forward the Sacrificial Overlord to get some good insight into here. He's really trying to gun for the back of the main, and he does manage to see it. But unfortunately, the Queen is just throwing darts relentlessly for the win. So it looks like Slush is also getting some Banelings. I'm curious if there's like a total resources mined. Is there just a spending? That's not quite what I wanted. But I'm curious if there's some way to count the gas. Because I would venture a gander that Slush could have been a little bit ahead on the gas. Oh, there's about 1,500 gas here. And by the way, something I'm doing right now is totally something I do all the time in my own games, where I just want to make sure that something I said is right. I feel like Slush could have gotten more Mutalisks out than his opponent, because Slush really screwed with Sheth early on. So it looks like Sheth mined... Okay, so that's at 1,650, that's at 2,100. This is at 1,500, and this is at 2,280. So they both mined about the same amount of gas. But I feel like Slush could have gotten his second extractor up and operational a little bit sooner. And plus these Banelings are a ton of gas. It's a big gas sink. Speeding things along so we can still have time for questions. But yeah, oh cool, we're kind of getting some defenses up here. Alright, nice. All the time, people hate on themselves for getting Spore Crawlers. Oh, how sad they get. They think to themselves, oh my goodness, what I should do is just get more gas. You know, a lot of people get the Spore Crawlers because they think, I'll never win the Mutalisk battle, I need spores to stay alive. And that's perfectly fine analysis, but then they frown to themselves and say, if only I'd had more gas in the first place, because now I'll never win the Mutalisk battle. The huge advantage you get if you have Spore Colonies down is what I call the counter-attack advantage. If I only have Mutalisks, let's say I went Muta Zergling Queen, and the only big anti-air I have are those Mutalisks, if I want to be aggressive, I always have to worry about a counterattack. Always, 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 always. Ah, that was really good, so now I can finish my point. But if you have Spore Crawlers down in your base, you can leave Mutalisks, even you can split your Mutalisk army in half, so you have like 5 here and 5 here, and then when his 14 Mutalisks get to your base, though that number is larger, you have 3 Spore Crawlers, so he has to retreat, and your 5 Mutalisks can sweep around and pick off his drones, and then later on, after his economy is shattered, you will surpass that 14 Mutalisk count. Cool, cool, cool. The counterattack advantage with whenever you're having that paired... I guess I'd call them mirror armies, where you're both going Mutalisks and that sort of thing. Sheth using Roaches in a very clever way. Very clever use of Roaches. Roaches are an unbelievable defensive unit in Zerg vs. Zerg early game. He can block the ramp. He can take an Expo early. They have an insane amount of life, so you can deal with the Zergling and Baneling busts at your Expo. So he's doing that just marvelously. I'm into that. Adding on some more Queens. Hell, if I have the extra minerals and I need to expand soon anyways, may as well get the Queen. And plus, it helps with me transfusing my Mutars. So Muta's also popping out for Slush. Slush is in the unfortunate situation where he is behind on the expansion, but because of creep tumors, thankfully you can walk forward with Spore Crawlers. In Brood War, this was always a very difficult situation when you had, when you had your Expo hatch and you had your main, and your opponent had his main and Expo hatch, and you just had your main hatch. It was really hard to get the Expo up. It always felt unsafe. But here you can, slowly sort of waltz yourself forward. And, ooh, Corruptors coming out. Corruptors, just for the record, in case any of you didn't know, also costs 100 gas. So if you're ever behind in the Muta count, you can get some Corruptors. And Corruptors crush Mutalisks. It's actually not too close. So I just think that's interesting. I don't have a lot to comment on that, especially not in this particular replay example. But now you kind of got to be a little bit careful when you are in the... Slush position, because you're at an air disadvantage. But here comes the Banelings. Oh my god, look at them just headbutting with the Roaches, just trying to march their way up. Pretty cool stuff. Just detonate. Yeah, awesome. Alright, come back to the resource counting station. Turns out not to have worked out so well for Slush, as we can see, as there's a 84 to 34 food deficit. And that's part of the reason why I wasn't the biggest fan of all of those Banelings being thrown down. Would have liked something a little bit different going down. Would have liked, a little bit more of the tech-type style stuff going down. But either way, I'm going to go ahead and halt the replay portion of this daily. And also, I would like to note that my room is pretty damn cold. Ooh, so that's great. It means my computer isn't going to overheat and crash like it did yesterday. Yay! So, all in all, we got to see 2 different openings and different windows of opportunity it gives you, both that you would describe as Zergling Baneling, but still, 13 pool, 13 gas, and 10 pool, 10 gas will end up resulting in something very, 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 very different. Now, I will note that Slush made, I think, one key error in each of them that kind of put him behind at the point where I stopped the replays. But it's so easy to look at those and go, oh, well, he looks like he's behind, then he did something wrong. Don't abandon it. That is amazing to me in that first game, how ridiculously fast 2 Banelings came in from either side and, like, guaranteed killed 4 or 5 drones. It was, like, guaranteed. Wow, that's sick. I kind of want to do that, but for an economic follow-through. It looked like Slush was trying to do it just for the, the good old kill drones, easy win, 2-0, done with the series, sort of situation. But I still like, quite a bit, that situation it gave him. Anytime you see something cheesy, always try to say to yourself, is there some way to do that super economically? Happened a lot in Brood War. People would go 9 barracks before Supply Depot, and then bunker rush and expand. It was weird. They would do this bunker rush, which people consider the all-time cheesiest thing in the universe, but then people started to figure out, yeah, it's actually not that costly to bunker rush, and I can expand, and I can kind of wall myself in with my barracks, and yeah, cool, I can march triumphantly forward into the beautiful sunset, aka mid-game. Which, for someone who doesn't go outside like me, the mid-game really is beautiful and full of colors like a sunset after a nice volcanic burst. That sounds weird, but seriously, when volcanoes erupt and they sort of like, all the crap spreads through the air, it's really, really, really pretty sunsets. Wow. B Teats says, that name makes me giggle. Mr. 9, why did Slush not take advantage of his economic? Why did he not take advantage of his economic advantage in the second game by getting an early expo? There are a number of reasons, and a lot of it could be that he was just probably caught up in the moment. But this is so much of why I say, let's do analysis in between games. That's why you should look at this, because I did a lot of Zergling Banelinging when I was trying to figure out a comfortable way to play Zerg vs. Zerg, and it felt icky at first. I always felt committed to making more units, and because I was playing random at the time, I was like playing all 9 matchups, and I had my head in a lot of places. And one day I was realizing that I lost all my Zerg vs. Zergs, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go back and watch all these replays, and I started to see these spots where I was like, oh, actually, I was fine. I was doing great, and those are the sort of things that you don't feel in the game, that a lot of times it turns out your in-game feelings aren't so on the money. They aren't so on the ball. So that's why I wouldn't say something like, well, Slush was an idiot for not doing it. There could have been a whole number of reasons that are not for consideration, but that's okay. I'm not going to worry about what his thoughts were. I'm just going to look at the game and say, hey, if I were in the same shoes as Slush were, I feel like I could get away with an early expansion, and then I'll put that in my pocket and continuing quite a bit with it in the future. So here we go. Here's a long question by KZN, who says, D9. In perusing Korean replays, I've noticed that Koreans of all races play a style that is highly focused on harassment. And I also want to say, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good style. People tend to just go, Koreans? Oh, they do stuff right about video games. And that's not true. Actually, it's kind of funny. If you play on the Korea servers, all you have to do is figure out how to get to the 9-minute mark, and you win like 100% of your games. And you're just like, oh, this is easy. I just start off the game, make 5 sunken colonies, and then I win 100% of the time. It's kind of goofy. But anyways, just follow your heart. Do your own style. So KZN says, the Koreans do harassment style things. And when I try to get the foundations for harassment up fast, I end up with too little stuff to defend from conventional attacks. How should one go about balancing the need for a conventional army to defend and a harassment-style army to be aggressive? Okay, and first of all, that's a great point. This will naturally happen where your first